This is not a drill. Mario Kart World just got the 1.4.0 update, and it is a massive one that I truly never seen coming. Now, the actual contents may not be a bunch yet, but the implications for what it could mean that's coming up next is insane. But let's just start off with the thing that you're probably here for, the intermissions. Nintendo has listened. The complaining has worked because they are tweaking intermission tracks, literally changing the layout of some of these tracks. So here's a list of the tracks that they've actually changed. Now there's 8 of them total, and they all involve Koopa Troopa Beach, whether it's going to Koopa Troopa Beach or moving away from it, but it seems to really be focusing on the water intermissions this time around. And I made a little chart showing you exactly the paths that are changed in the area that's affected the most. So it might not seem like a lot, but this little chunk of water in the south part of the map is drastically changed, and let me show you the side-by-side comparisons. Now, any gameplay that you see on the left side or with Mario, that's the before the update gameplay, and then anything on the right side with Koopa Troopa is after the update. So here is Koopa Troopa Beach to DK Spaceport. As you can see, there's now a big loop that goes off to the left. Previously, it was a dreadful dead straight drive on these orange buoy platforms, and I hated this intermission. This was probably one of my least favorites because this section, it's just everybody crowded on that center section. Well, now instead of going straight, you'll make a left here, and you'll go to this area where you need to make pretty much a complete U-turn back off into a ramp, which is cool because now you can actually drift and turn on the water sections instead of just driving straight to the track where you're trying to go to. And they finally did something I've been begging for. Throw some of those P-Switch mission assets into the intermissions. They just threw up some grind rails into the sky, which is super cool. Also, the area with the bouncy pads seems to be a lot different now. There's more bouncy pads and even bigger ramps to jump off of. This is Koopa Troopa Beach to Crown City. As you can see, it's pretty different at the start. There's now some drifting back and forth turns at the very beginning. Where originally it was a pretty basic section with some manta rays, which now have an update, by the way. If you get on the manta rays backs now, it actually speeds you up, where before it was just kind of slow and awkward and not even really worth getting on their backs. Well, now this section turns into a major zigzag. There's some colored brick walls put up and some really tight turns with also dolphins on these tighter roads as well. I was actually pleasantly surprised by the number of dolphins that they placed on this narrow pathway. And once again, the manta rays actually speed you up when you jump on their back, which is actually beneficial to hit them. Now, going from Koopa Troopa Beach to Peach Stadium is a very straight path, and it stays the same with the update, but something changes pretty big here. Now, in the original, it's just this long section with a couple of ramps placed in front of you that you can jump on, but nothing too interesting. Well, this whole section has been drastically changed by adding grind rail vines. This is an asset that's used a lot within the free roam and P-Switch missions, and I was so glad to see it return here. Literally, this is just the type of stuff that they could just slap into these intermission tracks. Also, previously, the end of this road didn't have anything else besides just a couple jellyfish waiting for you, where they now added an extra ramp, and actually a couple of boost ramps after that. From Whistle Stop to Koopa, there's a new little turn section towards the middle/end of the pathway. In the original, there's a couple of ramps, but there's also a giant whale that jumps up from the middle of the screen and lands right in the middle. And a lot of the time, if you're in first place, you can't really keep an eye on where this thing is at, as it will jump kind of out of the camera. And a lot of the time, it will land right on you and just like awkwardly move you out the way. Fan of how the whale worked here, but it's completely changed. It actually jumps in from the side this time around. You can see it coming, and it pushes everybody towards the right with that wave, and it jumps out the water a lot earlier and creates that wave a lot earlier instead of smacking you in the face when it lands into the water. The rest of the original path is just a straightaway over a couple of boost ramps. There's really nothing else special about the rest of this intermission, but it's once again completely changed. You once again come up to an area with a bunch of zigzag tight turns and a bunch of dolphins swimming with you, and you'll even come up to a section with a bunch of speedboats lined up for you to use in just a whole different area with a bunch of speed boost ramps on the left with rings to dash through, and the right side having tons of wooden crates and porcupuffers for the speedboats. So yeah, that's a really cool addition, actually finally adding some of those giant vehicles into the intermissions. Going from Desert Hills to Koopa Troopa Beach, it looks slightly different now. As you can see towards the middle/end, once again, there seems to be a break in the track. Now, originally, there's just a bunch of floating orange and yellow platforms, including those really long straightaway ones with boost pads that you literally just drive straight down the middle on. Well, it's now been replaced by a speed boost ring that blasts you forward onto the next section of the track, which once again puts you in a section of a narrow pathway with tight turns and more ramps, before sending you through yet again another boost ring blasting you back onto the track at high speeds. Now, the original also throws in a giant well at the end in a fairly straight drive all the way through the goal, where this time it adds some floating grates that you can drive on, including 4 that's right, 4 helicopter spawns. Now, what's so cool about these is you can fly right through the Yoshi's sign. I just didn't do it in this clip. I didn't really see it until this next track, but I'll talk about it when we get to the next one. Now, going from DK Spaceport to Koopa Troopa, you'll notice a pretty big difference. There seems to be a lot more turns, an even split path section, and a section that just literally cuts the course in half with a boost section. First off, the giant Robo DK section now actually has ramps where you're not just driving on flat ground the entire time. As you're going underneath DK Spaceport, they now actually added some little box springs that you can bounce off of. The same way as when we went in the opposite direction, the original version will have this extremely straight path with these floating forms that just takes you right down the middle where everybody clogs up the middle lane. They now added some separate ramps with boost rings and some more tight turns this time around. They then have a split section where you can stay to the left or to the right, and where originally you just drive straight over a couple of speed bumps, you now take a path that takes you on the right outside part of that little Yoshi shack, and taking you in a completely different area of the beach, which is pretty cool. Now, going from Crown City to Koopa Troopa Beach, that left turn will be a lot harder and also have a lot of left and right bends in it this time. And it's nothing super crazy. It's pretty much exactly like I said. You'll still have the manta rays, and this time you can actually boost off of them, and instead of taking a very ever so gradual turn to the left into this giant boost ring, you'll now make some sharp turns. But not to worry, because right after those sharp turns, it brings you right back to that giant boost ring that I think looks pretty cool. But originally, you would just glide for a short bit before landing and going straight to Koopa Troopa Beach, but they added some cool parts to this. Now they give you a couple of extra boost rings to go through, including one, like I said previously, behind the Yoshi's sign. You can actually fly right through it, it will spin around, and you'll go straight through the boost ring. I didn't even know the signs could spin around. I don't know if that's something that they just added. Has it always been a thing? I've never really went through them in free roam. Never really had a reason to. I don't think there was any collectibles through them, so seeing that now is actually pretty cool. And finally, going from Peach Stadium to Koopa Troopa Beach is definitely different here, because it adds it adds this. So originally, after the boost section, it would go into this really small area where once again it was one singular floating platform that everybody would cram on. Well, this time they completely spread out the area. Instead of vines everywhere, they actually just added 2 completely different routes that you can choose. They're not really different, it's the same thing, just mirrored on the opposite side, so you could just choose to go left or right here. And I like this, how it can actually split up all these racers, especially if there's a total of 24. It feels like a pretty good idea to split everybody up here. Now, these track changes seem to only be for versus race, regular race, and online play or wireless play. I'm not sure if any of this is going to change if it ends up being a part of an intermission or something. I don't think any of them really do, so it's hard to say. But yeah, let's go into the rest of the things that they added before we really talk about those intermissions real quick. But they added custom items, where this is a feature that lets you set which items appear. This is supported in versus, balloon, coin runner, and room in online play or wireless play. They made it so that the music track name and the source title of the track that is playing will be displayed on the pause menu at the top right, which is really cool. You can now see the name of the songs if you really like a specific song, but if you're a Mario nerd like me, you probably already know the music. And they've also added music volume to the settings/controller, which literally just allows you to make it louder or normal. They made it so that players who gathered in a room of online play can participate in a race, knockout tour, and battle. Up to 4 players can participate in race, knockout tour, and battle, so you can easily group up with friends now. How in the world was this not a thing originally? So that is a huge plus. Made it so that you can join in with friends who are playing Knockout Tour from friends and 2-player online play as well. Added restart in next race in the pause menu for versus race in single player. Once again, how was restart not there? Made it so that you can select photo mode from the pause menu and race against ghosts in time trials. And they state that you will now dash when riding on Manta ramps back, which we've already talked about. They made it so that the player will not hit Dragon Kneel when transformed into Bullet Bill, made it so that the players cannot use a second boo while already using a boo when holding 2 boos. That's a sentence. When dash food is taken by someone, shorten the time until the dash food reappears, and then when a coin placed on water is taken by someone, they shorten the time until that coin reappears. Now there's also lots of bug fixes. I'll link the entire patch notes down below and you can just check all that out if you want. But yeah, this was like a significant upgrade for so many reasons. Like, this is the update that we needed for Mario Kart World. It shows that Nintendo's listening. Now, is this because that, you know, they have some type of analytics on their end that shows that people are playing less online, or is it because they hear people complaining more online? I don't know what it is, but for some reason they seem to really be caring and actually be making these changes despite selling so many copies already. Like, it's already over 10 million copies sold, probably well over that by now. But this gives me hope, because this was, even though it was like only a batch of 8 intermission tracks that they chose to fix right now, it shows me that they're going to be working, potentially fixing a lot of these other intermissions. It also makes sense for them to do the water ones first. For one, those are some of the most boring ones, as there's absolutely no turns in the water. You're just driving straight, and you can pretty much make your own paths in the water. There's no already well-established road or anything there. Now, there are still a lot of roadways that are dead straight, and I'm hoping they fix some of those as well. And as you can see, sometimes all they need to do is just, like I said previously so many times, just add some enemies and add some of those obstacles and some of those cool assets from the free roam mode. There's still so many more. I'm probably going to make a whole nother video on this now, because I'm so excited for the implications of what this means for the future of this game, and I'm hoping that this is just one update of many more to come in the future. Thank you, Nintendo. We see that you are making changes. Just keep making these changes, and Mario Kart World could end up a completely different game in a year or two from now, and people's opinions on it could change greatly. But let me know what you thought of the update so far. It is small, but I'm hoping we also get some major updates as well, adding some new content to the game. Hopefully we'll see that soon within the next Nintendo Direct. But thank you so much for tuning in. If I provided you with some good information, please make sure you leave a like and subscribe. We're still trying to reach 380,000 subscribers, and you can make that happen today to reach our long goal of 400K. But I hope you all have a blessed day, and I'll see you all on the next one. See you guys.